So joining us now to discuss events in the Middle East is Thembisa Fakude. Thembisa, good afternoon, and thank you for your time with us here on the SABC at this hour.
Thanks for having me.
Let's get your thoughts on what's transpiring between Israel and Hamas, perhaps also given that it has now been 3 months. We're entering the 4th month mark. And, there are still calls for the cessation, for the ceasefire. Perhaps as we look at the death toll and injury list increasing day by day, well into the thousands.
Yeah, well, Israel doesn't seem to be satisfied in terms of its continual bombardment and destruction of infrastructure, killing of women and children in Gaza. And they've now moved on, of course, to the West Bank. And even there is a carnage that's taking place. So while they release a certain number of Palestinians through the previous deals, they are also arresting triple the number of the Palestinians and killing the number of Palestinians in the West Bank. So the current carnage that we see in Gaza is not only limited to Gaza, but is also happening in the West Bank. We see them now getting outside the territory into Lebanon, and other people are saying they were involved in the killing of 100 people next to the graveyard of Qasem Soleimani in Iran. So the war is likely to spread over, and Israel has vowed, of course, that this will carry on for the next couple of months until they eradicate Hamas. Now the question is, how are they going to do that? Because Hamas is part and parcel of the social fiber of Gaza and the West Bank.
Well, Thembisa, speaking about spreading, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is on his second full day of his trip in the Middle East. And what's the efficacy of that at this point? We've seen Hamas deputy leader killed in the Beirut attack. And obviously, he's trying to prevent the conflict in Gaza from spreading. But what are you observing on that front?
I don't think he's trying to prevent Gaza from the war from spreading in the West Bank. In fact, he's encouraging the Israelis to continue killing the Palestinians. The Americans have not, in any way or form, tried to stop this. In fact, they've encouraged the Israeli Defense Force to continue bombarding Gaza, providing them with arsenal and weaponry to carry out that mission. So Americans are part and parcel of the problem at the moment. And of course, the Palestinians are not really, impressed nor intrigued by the visit of Antony Blinken in the region. In fact, many of them don't even know. The story that's dominating news today is the killing of another journalist, Hamza Dagdour, whose father works for Al Jazeera, Lail Dagdour. And not long ago, he lost almost his entire family, his wife, his 2 sons, and a grandchild. And today we heard that his son, who was also a journalist, was killed. Targeted killing, as it's always been the case by the Israeli Defense Force in Gaza as he was doing his work.
Thembisa, on that note, I actually wanted to look at the impact that it's had on journalists, as dozens, as you alluded to, have been killed. Perhaps also the role of South Africa's media in covering, given that the latest attack was obviously on the son of Al Jazeera's Gaza bureau chief.
Well, the South African media fraternity, at least the platforms that you'll expect to be making noises and highlighting the importance of protection of journalists, have been, quiet in this regard. So as the larger journalism or media fraternity around the world, platforms that are supposed to be there advocating for the protection of journalists, most of them have been quiet. We hear now and then certain statements made by other organizations, but generally no one is really talking. We've had over 150 journalists that are killed that were killed in Gaza between the 7th of October and today, and yet we don't hear much nor see much coverage, let alone internationally. But in South Africa, there is almost nothing that's been reported about the death and the continual targeting of journalists by the Israeli Defense Force.
Thembisa, thank you for those sentiments. Just looking at the week that is to come, we're obviously seeing the International Court of Justice and the Israel case, and I wonder if we could get your thoughts on that move unfolding, even the prospects, combined with the fact that Moseneke is obviously also set to help preside over South Africa's genocide case against Israel. What are the possible outcomes that we're exploring at this point and the impact it's going to have?
Well, the ICJ has never been that effective, but I think what will happen is the theatrics around this case. So from the 10th and 11th, we're going to be hearing a lot about what actually happened on 7 October. And I think there will be a lot of surprises because there are reports that the Israeli Defense Force killed its own people as they were trying to push back Hamas. So Israel is on the public stage, and I think we're going to be seeing them exposed for lying against the Palestinians, and Hamas claiming that Hamas went on raping and beheading children. But we are likely to hear different reporting, and I think that alone is enough. But we also need to understand, as Minister Lamula said, that the main objective of this case, at least for now, is to push for ceasefire. Because if the court does establish that there is genocide unfolding, they could effect or call for a ceasefire. So we'll have to wait and see. But it's going to be an interesting couple of days when this deliberation take place. And I think, after all has been said and done, the country that will lose in this regard in terms of the exposure of the extent to which damage and killing has occurred in Gaza is going to be Israel.
What about Israel vehemently denying that it is committing genocide in Gaza, accusing South Africa of aiding and abetting Hamas by bringing the case to the ICJ? What are the repercussions or even the impact and the cost for South Africa?
Well, unlike in the past in 1945, at least from 39 to 45, we never had a chance of seeing pictures, live pictures unfolding in front of our eyes. What we're seeing on a daily basis, whichever channel you want to watch this current genocide unfolding, there is clear evidence that Israel has gone and violated a number of international law. Israel has gone on to continue killing thousands of innocent children and women. So it's going to be very, very difficult, one, for the public opinion to turn in favor of Israel, notwithstanding what you've all witnessed from October the 7th till today. So it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be very difficult for them to lie or take a different position because pictures don't lie. SABC has done an amazing work in terms of continually showing what's going on there objectively. And even that process of journalists from South Africa at least trying to show what's going on in Gaza is shown and continues to show a destruction of property, killing of women and children. And it's going to be very, very difficult, therefore, for Israel to deny the accusation, nor deny that there is a genocide taking place at the moment.
Thembisa, as we wrap up, I'm just looking at, how this case is also going to serve as a test for the South and Brics member countries. What are you observing on that front? And do you think that these countries, Brics +6, are going to be standing with South Africa, or is it a reason for division?
Well, it's going to be a bit hard because, one is Russia is involved in the war in Ukraine, and I don't think it wants to support any process charging any kind of genocide because it might just be them afterwards. China, at the same time, is also facing another accusation of genocide in Xinjiang, where the Uyghur Muslims are accusing China of genocide. So the two main members of BRICS, I think they are likely to abstain, but we are likely to see others joining in. Countries such as Brazil will certainly come in to join. India is also going to be a bit don't necessarily embrace nor support the charges against Israel because, Prime Minister Modi is very close to the Israelis, but at the same time, the Indians are also involved in their own war against Muslims in India. So it's going to be very difficult to have the BRICS countries supporting this. But having said that, I think the fact that we're going to have this playing in the public opinion is likely to turn and is likely to turn against the Israelis.